Alright, I'm in the house and here's my artwork hanging on the wall. I can't show the other side right now, but I'll show the other one another time because Paul is sitting there right now and he doesn't want to be seen by anyone. So I was talking about in my first the video outside, I was talking about Jonathan Mese, the guy that looked at the art exhibit. He couldn't even smile at the artwork. Art is there to make you smile. There are two astronauts in that compartment. They are there to make you feel love, and be in the flow of life and not be serious like this, like some art type of journalists or whatever. So art critics and so on. So most people seem to be very, very serious. They take themselves very seriously. They're not in the flow of life. They are very rigid-minded. They're unopen-minded because they had to close themselves up because of their dads making fun of them when they were children. They were not allowed to be children. They were not allowed to be in the flow of life. They were shouted at. They were humiliated for being playful, for being artistic, and so on. And then they shut themselves completely off. They shut their inner child off, and then the result is a lifetime of suffering, being their own internal prisoners, also turning towards alcohol. This thing where parents shut their children up, they're actually setting their children up for becoming pedophiles later on in life, because the need for this playfulness persists. It's there. They have fragmented themselves away from it. And when they fragment themselves away from that inner child and that playfulness, then they will be sexually gravitating to those who are still playful and in that flow of life. Okay? They could be adults like myself who are playful and in the flow of life, who can never be coerced or peer pressured into anything that neurotic people are setting up in society. I will never be peer pressured by anyone, no matter how I'm being humiliated. Will never ever happen. People can humiliate me all day long. Maybe I will cry, because I think that's sad. And it hurts. That will never peer pressure me into becoming like them, rigid-minded, unopen-minded. I will never cut off my artist that I am. This is one unit, one whole brain activity. I never fragment that away. My dad, of course, helped me. As I said in the other video, my dad supported me, so that was very lucky for me. So in that sense, I see a face in the wall. Yes. Sad face. I see faces everywhere, in all patterns. Faces. In that universe video of these amazing images of the different nebulae that they show, amazing images from the Hubble telescope. I see unbelievable dog faces. Dogs over dogs over dogs over all dogs in that video. It's amazing. I don't know if anyone else notices these faces. Different breeds of dogs are showing themselves in there, and kind of mixes of dog breeds that we have now, like new dog breeds, more evolved actually, like more enlarged, more twisted, elongated, morphed faces of dogs, different types of very serious dog faces, full of love. Serious in a loving way, okay? There's a difference between serious in a rigid way and serious in a loving way. When you're serious in a loving way, you see the other. You're not fragmented away. You see the predicament of the other. You see their suffering and stuff like that. And I see glimpses of that happening. There are sometimes moments where people see the glimpse, they see themselves, they recognize their own suffering in someone else, and psychopaths see that in other psychopaths. So that's why they have the most compassion for other psychopaths, because they see their own suffering in them, of course. They can't identify with anyone else because they have cut themselves off from that playfulness. So they're cut off from their own children. But that need for their playfulness doesn't end. It never ends. So it will come back in a fantasy form, in a very neurotic fantasy form. It will come back in snapshot fantasy. Snapshot. So I want to differentiate between fantasizing. Everyone has fantasies, and also sexual fantasies, and all kinds of fantasies. We have all kinds of needs and wishes. I want to definitely, I want to find a rich guy who can buy me a European Basset Hound and have a real lazy lifestyle. Okay? That's my personal fantasy. Then I also have sexual fantasies, of course. So, but I don't do snapshot imaging. So there's a difference between fantasizing and snapshot imaging. Snapshot imaging is fantasizing in a neurotic way, and using other people to using them as internal snapshot images. Making Sam Vaknin, Professor Dr. Sam Vaknin, he lives in England. He makes videos about this all the time, every day, 1 or 2 videos, sometimes 3 videos per day. His videos are they're like 20 minutes to an hour long videos, amazing videos, okay? So I watch his videos, they're highly educational and interesting. That guy's a genius, I think he is. So he's a self-proclaimed psychopath, okay? He understands how your brain functions, how your psychology functions. He understands you, the psychopaths. So you should watch his videos, because you will feel understood by him more than you feel understood by someone like me, who is not a psychopath, who doesn't act out in that way, okay? So I don't act out. Maybe to some extent I act out in, with OCD rituals. Those are, if we want to call that act out. It's not really. I think act out starts when people are acting something out on someone else. So I really avoid that. So I don't want to involve someone else into my suffering, or and if that happens, it's not intentional, and I apologize, and I want to work on it, definitely. I don't want to take a man away from a woman. That would be an act out, okay? I see that very clearly. I don't want to do that. That's a terribly neurotic act out, to do that. Or getting involved with bondage type of stuff. That's heavy duty act out. That's acting out on others, role play, particularly sexual role play, and particularly when it has a violent connotation, those are heavy-duty act-outs. Those are neurotic act-outs. All of this is part of this neurotic fantasizing, and much of that has to do with that inner child that has been fragmented away from consciousness, but it's still there, and then it asks to be liberated, but the ego doesn't allow it, but the need is there, the physical need for it is there. So they will go out there and start fantasizing about people who are still in their whole mental state. They are still the artist, they are still the inner child, okay? And they will also start fantasizing about children and even about their own children. Okay? So that's the mechanism. That's what I'm observing. And it makes complete sense now, what I see. And what I understand from my own cognitive reasoning, from my bottom-up reasoning, putting all of that information together. Looking at the entire picture, I see all of that now. I see where all of that comes from. They have cut off their inner child and they start to fantasize about children in a sexual way, and they don't even know why. They only know that they do, and then they're ashamed about it. They know that's wrong. Society tells them that's wrong. They don't know what's right or wrong on their own because they have cut themselves off from the compassion and the love. See, the inner child is all that, the compassion and the love, the true clown, the play child is compassion and love. There's no separation. When you cut off your inner child from your own consciousness, then you cut off your ability to love, okay, and have empathy with someone else on a broader scale. I mean, so you may have glimpses of empathy because you see the other psychopath suffering. You see yourself in them. You know that they're suffering somewhere. You know, so you feel some compassion. You see someone who isn't violent, and you say to that person, you think you're holier than thou, because you've cut yourself off from that what the compassionate person has not cut themselves off from. You have cut yourself off from your inner child because your dad humiliated you horrifically. This is horrific. And then you do it to your own children, and you perpetuate that cycle of suffering. Let's become consciously aware about this and end that cycle of suffering. That is my message to you. That is my request to you. That is my invitation to you, to all of you, to the whole world. I have an invitation with an open hand as the sign of friendship. My invitation to you is, I have sunbeams of love coming off my hand, of my whole body. They say this is an invitation for love. Allow that inner child again. That means tears. That means you cannot bypass dad. What dad did to you. Cannot bypass. You want to bypass that. You don't even want to think about it. No, but you have to go through that bottleneck. That is the entry point of the ego dissolution funnel. It starts with the present. You can't just jump into the past. That's something Arjanov observed. And he was absolutely spot on with that. I know Paul disagrees. I hope he doesn't hear me talk about it. Because once I talk about Arjanov, he goes off like some rocket ship, okay, and never end. I can't talk to him about these things, so he doesn't understand anything. The only thing he understands that this bad, this good, you personality conflict with grandfather. That's where the psychology ends for him. So that's not even psychology for me. Okay, that's just like, okay, yeah, it is. That's how it is. Let's understand why it is like that. Okay, if we don't ask the question why, there's no way we can heal it. So maybe everything appears like this is some kind of lost cause, or there's no way people can heal, or don't even try. Yeah. Sam Vaknin would say, don't even try to help a psychopath, because he doesn't even give himself that credit. But I have seen his development. If Sam Vaknin is watching, I saw your development. You have, my gosh, you have moved forward light years already, okay? You are light years moving forward in the right direction. You are facing stuff. You're even crying sometimes. Even in the video. This is mega, okay? This is mega role model for the whole world, particularly for the male world out there, particularly for the psychopathic males. Okay, so because they don't want to allow themselves to cry, no, that they think that's gonna cut their balls off or something. Be that role model. Sam is that role model. Go more in that direction. Do more. Okay, don't be afraid. So I'm here to understand you. Okay? I'm here to support you with this. I'm here as a friend. I know you probably don't like me at all. But I'm here as a friend. I understand. I see these things. I'm big time into psychology. I studied psychology at universities. I had to leave because of my own mental illness. So I had to just go on studying it on my own, observing it from the internet, which is the ultimate eye-opener in terms of psychology. And I watch everyone has a lot to say about this. So Sam is my number one professor in this regard. Also Dr. Robert Sapolsky, coming from the molecular side of it. Very interesting. For me, this is the most fascinating. The brain is a cosmos. So, but I'm really interested in healing and into the psychoanalytical part of it. And psychoanalytical in a way of bottom up, not top down, not like, oh, let me sit there and get all in my head or something, like brainy analyzing and more fragmenting, right? That's what Sri Krishnamurti was talking about, that he was criticizing that. He said this is not helping us. So, but psychoanalyzing, psycho means my soul, really, that psycho is the soul, but what they thought was psycho. Obviously my soul is beyond all of that, but our souls, they're like, that's completely different thing. Our minds is what they really mean by psycho. So psychoanalyzing, ana means apart, analyzing means cutting apart. So I'm cutting things apart in order to look at it, like going in the fMRI machine, but then you see the brain, actual brain meat, right? So I'm talking about just the thought processes. the psychology part of it. So we don't want to analyze it in more fragmentation. We just want to analyze it in a way to how I see all of it. I see the different components of what's going on here. Let's put it all on the table. Let's create some order. Let's not jumble it all up. Set it on the table. Look at it. Okay, but don't separate these things. Just look at it. Separate it like a rubber spider. You pull one leg off, like not apart, but you pull one leg out in order to look at it, and then you snap it back onto the body. So in that way, we're not fragmenting anything away. We just put it on the table, all these pieces to look at it, but they are still cohesive, and we leave them in their cohesive whole, and we want to understand them in their cohesiveness, in their cohesive whole. Of course, we don't want to separate all of that away, and then one person becomes an expert in sex therapy, and the other person becomes an expert in PTSD. No, the whole thing is one conglomeration. Let's look at it. Okay, all of this plays a major part in all of it. Everything is connected to everything. And we need to look at it. Put it on the table, like all of my jars there that I have on the table, my artwork. I look at it. The whole thing, the whole table is one art piece, basically, one conglomeration, okay, like my brain, my mind. So, I don't know, the baby dog went? No? I guess he's still sleeping. Okay. So that's what we have to do, okay? We have to look at the whole picture. Sunbeams of love coming in, nice. And it is important that we look at the whole picture, that we don't separate anything out, okay? So, and it is important that we understand people better, like we understand the psychopaths better, and not just put someone in the dungeon and say, oh, let's leave them there, put the lid on it, let them smolder away there or whatever, put someone lock someone up in prison and just throw the key away or something. No. No, I had a friend once in LA, an activist. He meant well. Very sweet guy. I'm not going to mention names. He was an activist on the street. I met him through my activism in front of the Whole Foods market, and he was there with his friend. They were both campaigning against Arnold Schwarzenegger being governor, and we were on board with it because we were ignorant. We didn't know that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a super compassionate person. Okay, so we didn't know at that time. So we gave out flyers against him. This is embarrassing, So my friend was doing that too, and ultra liberal. I was also very ultra liberal at that time, and because I was ignorant, of course. So, but then, but we talked a lot, we met a couple of times just as friends. And we, later on when we moved north, I still stayed in contact with them, and we talked and all of this. And we talked a lot about different things, like ethics and stuff. And that was a nice friendship. I'm sad that we lost contact. So, but we were talking about ethics, and Paul has always been very regimented in a way, more in a Republican, more in a conservative way. When I first met him, I thought he was full force conservative, and then I found out he is not. So, but he is kind of regimented in some ways. The hackers know because they're listening to his rants, so they know that, and that's all acting out, of course. Those are all like angry rants or act outs. That's for sure. So I can I can get into something like this, but I want to become more aware about it for myself, and I want to become consciously aware of what I'm doing, and then I will recognize, oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm acting it out right now. So I don't want to act it out. So I'm going to just not act it out in that moment when I perceive that I'm acting out. So it's all about perception and understanding. Understanding that this behavior is not good, this behavior is not leading to anything good in society, right? It starts with me, that peace, We all have to become aware. We have to become consciously aware. All of this is healing, all of this is learning, all of this is growing and expanding. This is one process, healing and growing and learning. One process. It's not separated. So then Brian, I know I said the name Brian, but I'm not going to say his last name, so Brian, the activist. So he then said, no, he's against the death penalty. He was very, 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 he was very strongly opinionated about, I don't like that word. He had a very strong conviction about that. So he was very much against the death penalty. And at that time I was 2. I even wrote a research paper at Santa Monica College against the death penalty. I got an A for that. So, and then later on I've seen the whole picture from another perspective. Right? So I had to see the whole thing. When I became an activist, I saw the whole picture from another perspective. So, because Brian saying, no, you gotta lock them up and throw the key away. That's what Brian said. And I was like, at that time, I was just at that pivotal moment where Paul had already started to make sense with the death penalty and all of that. I had already become an activist for the animals. And I've already realized what kind of horror is going on out there. Okay, and they're very dangerous people. And so I thought, oh no, we definitely need the death penalty. But I look at it yet from another perspective today. So now I see that there are like a whole lot of reasons why we need the death penalty. Because locking someone up into a prison is so cruel. There are no words to describe it, right? You cannot lock someone up. Okay? You cannot put a woman in a dungeon, lock her up, and we cannot put you in a dungeon either. We cannot lock you up, whatever you did. But there are some dangerous people, they are so dangerous that dealing with them with the whatever psychiatric means that we have right now is almost impossible. They set forests on fire, they're killing their physicians, they're completely out of control. So yeah, some people have to shoot them because they're so out of control. Some people are so out of control. There's only one thing. They have to be either tasered or shot. Okay? But putting them into a prison cell is just unbelievably cruel. And then for any length of time, really, it's cruel. But Newsom wants to let them out, and then they think, they think what they did wasn't so wrong. Okay, so this is all justified. In their minds, they think it's all good. They need to take revenge on innocent Asians and white people because of some historic stuff that bad history of some Asian or whatever white people who have done something to another race. So, and these things have been going on throughout history, and it's all horrible. You cannot let it out on innocent people. Okay, you can't. Just because of their skin color. That's extreme racist. Okay. Racism is extreme neurosis. Okay. This has to be. Everyone has to get very clear on this now. Okay. You cannot be racist anymore. Just become very clear about it. Don't let it out on innocent animals or humans. Anything. Okay. This is not making the world a better place. That's not a revolution. Okay. You're in this world. We're all in this world together. We breathe the same air. Okay. We need the oxygen from the forest. You cannot set them on fire. Okay. That's a fact. So all of this has to be understood. Okay, I'm trying to convey this message to the world. But I want to come back to the subject of psychology. Fantasy versus snapshot imaging. Okay, that's how I will word myself. We can use other words or whatever, definitions or descriptions of this. But this is basically in order to convey this message, like, fantasy. We fantasize about all kinds of things. I fantasize about having a better life, being around people who understand me better, having a paradise, really, But there are some sexual fantasies as well. And that doesn't hurt anyone, okay? So then we have these snapshot imaging. Internal snapshots of people. Sam Backman talks about this. He came up with that terminology of snapshots. Okay? I have to credit him for this. So I'm still making video. And it's very, very well observed. These people that have cut themselves off from their inner children completely, they still have the need for this, for a straight man or bisexual man. They have the need for a woman who is not a pushover, who is still her inner child. Okay. And unfortunately, they often develop the need, and that's good, to desire an adult, of course, but not desire a child, or your own children, and traumatize them, because because your child has still that complexity. She's not cut off yet, okay? And you start fantasizing about her, and it becomes a sexual fantasy. That's where it becomes dangerous. Okay? And I want to point this out. This is not a judgment. This is not some kind of moral compass or some moral lecture. Okay? This is psychology. I want you to become aware about your own psychology. That's a healing and growing and learning process. Okay? Get into that. Become aware of it. Don't fragment it. Don't fragment that away. If tears come up, embrace those tears. And if you say, yeah, but, in the end, if the psychopath is totally cornered by a reasoning like this, whether it comes from me or anyone else, the psychopaths will, they will recognize that that's the truth. And then they will say, yeah, but what? Yeah, but. Wait a minute, yeah, but then I have to face my, yeah. Then you have to face your own trauma. Okay. Don't run away from your trauma on cost of other living beings, on beating other living beings, on hurting other living beings. Okay. Don't run away from your pain, making a dog's life, a horse's life, an animal's life, your wife's life, or women's lives, your daughter's lives, or anyone's life miserable. And that's what people are doing. Don't act out violently anymore. That's the real neurotic act out. When someone is acting out in some kind of abusive way. That can be anything from angry rants, which is, the most mild form, of course, but it's also neurotic. It's not good. It's not beneficial. To insulting, to psychological abuse, to role play, what I see on the internet, drama, head gaming, trying to make a woman cry. You know what you're doing. You have been playing these things your whole life. You've been doing this your whole life. Some of you have been doing this for 70 years. Yes, a good dog. Yes, a good dog. Yes, a very excellent. Oh, yes. You know what you're doing. You know that is your knee-jerk reaction of narcissistic repair. You feel something made you feel demasculinized, something innocent that it never meant to make you feel demasculinized. That someone having a better argument than you makes you already feel like someone has gutted your balls. Okay. So, but they didn't. They never meant to, and they didn't in actuality. You still have your balls, okay? You're still masculine. This is an old pain from childhood. Okay? Dad humiliating you. That shit comes up. Then you externalize it to your present time, to your external circumstances, to the other people. You project stuff onto them. You insinuate stuff onto other people. Okay? Like, oh, what she did, and she didn't even know that she did anything, right? So, but that's what your ego does. You know that's what your ego does. Become aware about it. Become consciously aware about it. Don't act out violently on other people anymore. If you stop it, if you become really crystal clear about this, you're not violent anymore against other people, then what will happen then? Then you are faced with your own trauma that wants to feel its way through and get integrated in a wholesome way, where it is no longer bothering you and poking you, where it becomes neutral information in your brain. That's the healing process. Okay. But in order to do this, you have to be willing to feel what it feels like. In the present moment, she has the better argument. What does it feel like? You feel like your balls are gutted. Okay? Don't run away from it. Don't run away from it. Don't drink 6-pack. Don't do it now. Just not now. Don't smoke one right now. Sit there with it. With that. Sit there sober. As sober as it gets. Okay? Eat something. Okay? You don't want low blood sugar when you're going through this. Eat something, drink water. Very important. Drink a lot of water and tea. I do that all day long, all the time. All the time. Drink fluids. Drink healthy water. Healthy tea. Herbal tea. Okay? And then sit with that emotion. She has the better argument. Oh, a woman had the better argument. That brings up daddy, right? You're not even aware of it. The dad who told Henry Rollins, the punk singer, has talked about his dad a lot. He has done like spoken word performances where he would bring up stuff like this, talk about it. Very important. So those were his therapy sessions, really. They were also funny, of course, people loved them. But they also were powerful in a psychological way. And empowering. His music too, always. That's the difference between Kurt Cobain and Henry Rollins, right there. I love both of them dearly, okay? Kurt Cobain into narcotics. He killed himself with that. Into I'm ugly and the world is going down. Give me heroin and I'll just finish myself off. That was Kurt Cobain's message. Highly sensitive person, compassionate, totally crushed by society. He didn't know how to cope with it. Then you have Henry Rollins on the other side. He goes like, my number is 1. My number is 1, my number is 1, and I'm going for it. Okay, that's his music. My number is 1. My number is 1, and then a huge drum beat to this. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da-ta-da-ta-ta-ta. My number is 1. My number is 1, and I'm going for it. And I'm going straight. That song is power, man. That's empowerment. For all, for women too, for everyone, for me when I was listening to that in LA. My number is 1 and I'm going for it. The exact opposite message of Kurt Cobain. Henry Rollins doesn't do drugs. He doesn't even drink alcohol. So, his life is about empowerment. Okay, his life is about reading, learning, growing, healing. Okay, his music is therapy. So, those were his sessions, basically. He was screaming his head off in their songs. I mean, it was so intense he had to go to a physician many times with his vocal cords. He completely blew his vocal cords out, but it was healing him, at the same time. I know when I scream, my vocal cords get kind of sore too. So, and I have a very like a hoarse voice, but I feel empowered because I screamed it out. So, Henry Rollins was actually, talking about this now, I realized that Henry Rollins was really a major therapist for me. He really was in my life. Fantastic. He has helped more people than he can even imagine with his music. He empowered people with that. That's energy. It's an energetic field, his music. Obviously, I'm not listening to punk or heavy metal anymore. I mean, very rarely that I listen to it. But those accompanied me through very difficult times in my life, and I identified myself also with this in a brother sisterhood type of way, so, and I felt like, yeah, they're my brothers and sisters. They tell me to scream, they tell me to be empowered. Very important, all of this. Okay. So fantasizing, if it doesn't hurt anyone, if there is no one hurt in your fantasy, then that's a wonderful thing. Okay. My artwork, my sculptures, that's all part of fantasy in a way that doesn't hurt anyone. It's child play. Fantasy in a child play. Fantasy, about I want to have aliens come and put me into a hot springs. Fantasy, it's beautiful, all fantasy. Yeah, there's a component in the whole fantasy world that is also sexual, because I'm a sexual being. Okay? So as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, it's good. The moment where there's a fantasy, and I've seen it in myself, where I felt like, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I felt like, there's a component of revenge and stuff like this coming. I'm like, Nikki, we don't do revenge. I have to remind myself, I have to observe myself when sexual fantasy comes up that has to do with revenge. That's an act out. Full force. Even if it's only in fantasy, it's an act out. Someone will say, those are just words. Words are even more than just a thought, right? A thought is an energy bundle, okay? It's an energetic field. Words typed on the computer or written on a paper, that's putting this energetic field into writing. This gives it even more momentum. Okay, it's even that snowballed energetic field. Okay, words, and then when you address these words towards someone else, then it becomes abuse. Okay. No, they're not just words. This is full force abuse. Psychological abuse is very serious. The Facebook stuff, they know. Okay? There was a whistleblower who shut them down for one day. You remember? Okay? Because they weren't listening to her. She said, your statistics, they have statistical evaluations on the whole population on Facebook. And it's good. We need it for making the world better, right? Not for making it worse. But when greed comes in, greedy people, they want to exploit that to make money on it, right? And then Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg didn't listen to her. The statistics was very crystal clear. The bullying was causing teenage girls to commit suicide, particularly bullying by psychopathic men. And let me guess, most of them are Muslim men, okay? Because they have never learned kindness in their lives. Okay, psychopathy is part of their religion. It is actually sanctioned to them. Okay? They're actually sent out to hurt people. That's part of jihad, right? So anyone in their clear mind understands that this is total insanity. Okay? Facebook, though, was making money on that. So they ignored her. They ignored her warnings. So she said, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to stand for this. A good Samaritan, an angel soul. So she blew the whistle on them. So that's why they shut down their website for, 5 or 6 hours one day. And I thought it was Zane that disabled my account on Facebook. And that's why I contacted 60 Minutes Australia. Was that he knows I did. And I'm not going to leave it at 60 Minutes Australia. Good. This is my message to you. If you continue the abuse, I'm going to step it up. So far I haven't. I'm not going to bother the FBI with something that is happening all over the place with in such massive amounts. They don't even know how to keep up with this. And so far, I mean, it has been making me cry and all of this. It has also, Zane has made me suicidal. Okay. So Zane's abuse was the worst of all, from all. The absolute worst. He's also the most mentally ill of all of these people in the chat room. That's what I would say, from looking at all of the people in there. The one who comes right after him is Tex-Mex. There's not much of a gap between them. But Zane is he's really the most, he is the most criminally insane of all. And abusive. Okay. And that's a fact. Look at it. Yeah. This is a fact. And if you want to make your life better, go into your own mind. Okay. Stop abusing other people. If you continue to abuse me, at some point I will have to contact the FBI. So I don't know who is all hacking into my computer. I know Zane is definitely one of them. And as Paul said, there are hacking programs. People don't even have to be actual professional hackers. They can buy a program like this, a spy program, a very complex spy program that costs a couple of $1,000. I don't know, $5,000. Okay, and there's a lot of people who would buy that because that's their hobby, to spy on people, stalk people, and make their lives miserable, and then humiliate them for that what they saw in their everyday life. You farted. Oh. Oh, you burped. You are a living being. I didn't know that. I thought you were some kind of rubber doll, inflatable or something. Some kind of rubber robot. No, and I'm not a god, and I'm not your Guruji. Okay? I am an indigo soul. I'm trying to heal my pain. I'm alive. This body is alive. There are guts in here. That bubble, okay, that makes sounds. There are air bubbles coming out all ends, okay? I'm alive, okay? I'm not ashamed about it. You want to make me feel ashamed. You want to humiliate me, okay? That's what you want to do. That's a massive act out. A lot of people committed suicide because of that. It won't be me. I'm healing, I'm growing. But yeah, I have overdosed one time because of Zane. Okay. That was pretty heavy. Okay. I went out in the garden, I could not even get up. And I was tumbling around, I falling down on the grass. And I said, Blue God, take me back. But the Blue God said, no. You still have a mission ahead of you, okay? You have some work to do. That's what your mission is all about, okay? To bring love into the world. And that's very touching, okay? And I want to live up to that. And I want to heal myself. The healing starts with me. I'm healing myself. I'm empowering myself. I'm trying to help you. Okay? I'm trying to make sense. I'm trying to give you this tool of inwardness process meditation. Okay? This is a theoretical tool of inwardness process. I'm telling you, giving you the steps of that inwardness process. Sit down sober in meditation and go into your own mind. If dad comes up, allow the dad. He's a victim too. Okay? Allow the pain. How does it feel like? He humiliated you. He told you you needed to be on top of women in every respect, right? You needed to be. It's what Henry Rollins talked about in detail about his dad. But Henry Rollins is a rebel. He's not going to accept that. Henry Rollins is an indigo soul, like myself. Kurt Cobain is an angel soul. And that was his life, and he was set out for that. There was a message too for the world. He had a message too. A lot of angel souls are crushed by the harshness of the world. And some of them set out to do that. Yeah. Anna Nicole Smith is one of them. Marilyn Monroe is another one. Same soul. Anna Nicole and Marilyn are the same soul. Yeah. 2 lifetimes, very similar. Again, it's the angel soul crushed by the pressure of this world. Many angel souls crushed by this harsh world, particularly in Hollywood. Yeah. That happens all the time. Brittany Murphy, I made a video about this. Another angel soul, crushed by the heaviness of this world. But they come to this world to experience this. And there's also a message in it for the world. And the message is, to show you the dangers of Hollywood and of psychopathy and of some people being dangerous. Many people. Society's pressure and all of that. How dangerous that is. They were living examples of that. They crushed themselves to show you how crushing it is. Okay, that's what angel souls do sometimes. So, some indigos too, of course. But the indigos are more about. They're more about. They're on their own healing. They want this whole lifetime of healing and growing, even if it's agonizing. And they want to also convey this to the public, this healing. So I think I laid this out as good as I possibly could, fantasizing in a harmless way, in a peaceful way, versus internal snapshot imaging, where you make other people into snapshots into your head. And if someone acts outside of that character, the people in the chat room actually say it to me. You're acting out of character. I am not your internal snapshot, just so we make this very crystal clear here. Okay, I am not your whatever rubber doll, your baby doll, the child, the whole, I'm still a child. That's where the turn on is. Okay. Because you cut yourself off from your own inner child. And it's always appealing to be a whole person. Good. It's appealing to me to be a whole person. I like being a whole person, and it's appealing to others. But when it becomes a sexual fantasy, and then you do, that's not the worst part. You can have a sexual fantasy about me. But don't make me into your internal snapshot image, where I am attributed to a role play, to a character, that I'm supposed to play in that role play. That's where it becomes toxic, because I'm not that role that you assigned me to be. Okay? I am me, I'm an artist, and I am moody. I get pissed sometimes, and I don't like sarcasm, you know, but yeah, it does in some form, it does surface. It's a passive aggressiveness, you know. It is being pissy behavior. And yes, sometimes in a way of showing a mirror, not in a way of total miscommunication, where I'm just repeating what someone else says in order to mock them with it. That's not communication. Okay. No, I will show you a mirror. But yeah, I catch myself doing these things. That's an act out. Okay. I have to come back to ground zero, you know. I have to come back to the ego dissolution funnel. So I'm not a god. I'm alive. I'm healing. I get angry. Then I'm out of character. Okay. All of this is part of me, you know. When I'm angry, I am anger. So Jiddu Krishnamurti said that. When I'm feeling good, I'm good. When I'm feeling sexy, I'm sexy. When I'm loving the dog, I am the love of the dog. So we are what we feel in every given moment. Okay? All of this is me. It's not fragmented into different personalities. These are different moods. These are different mind states. Okay? I am work in progress. I'm healing. I'm trying to heal myself. Okay? I'm trying to help you heal. I want to be an example of healing for others, to encourage others to heal. So become aware that I am an artist, and that I have my own mind, and that I am not here to serve you as your internal snapshot that you have of me, attributed as a role character. And I better stay in that character or else, you know, or Freddy Krueger will come and hit me or something because I was acting out of character. No, all of this is me in different mental states, and I'm not perfect, and I'm trying to heal myself, and I'm encouraging you to go into your own mind and heal yourself and quit all the toxins. Peace out.